me bring up Aimee Larsen. She's the director of the Generalized System of Preferences Office in the Executive Office of the President of the United States, the U.S. Trade Representative's Office, and we're very pleased to have her here today.
Good afternoon. It's really good to be here. I'm here to discuss, as Jeff said, how Afghanistan can make the most of an important U.S. trade program, the Generalized System of Preferences Program, the GSP. The United States is committed to helping Afghanistan grow its economy and to create new jobs. We believe there is no better path to economic growth and development than through trade expansion and diversification. It is the path that some of the most successful emerging economies have taken. Excuse me. I hope that the information we discuss today will help you identify and develop new trade opportunities for your companies and ultimately lead to new and increased export from Afghanistan to the United States. Next slide, please. Here's what I hope to accomplish today. First, I'll give you a general overview of the GSP program, what it is, how it works, and how to discover if your products are eligible. Thank you. Next, we'll examine Afghanistan's current trade under GSP, including the biggest exports under GSP and some missed opportunities. Finally, we'll take a look at what you and other Afghan exporters can do to make the most of the GSP program to increase your duty-free exports to the United States. Next slide. So the GSP is the oldest and largest U.S. preferential trade program dating from the mid-1970s. The primary purpose of GSP is to support economic growth in developing countries by giving them a special advantage in the U.S. market over imports from developed countries. GSP provides duty-free access to the U.S. market for almost 5,000 products that would otherwise be dutiable products from Afghanistan. The program also benefits U.S. businesses and consumers by lowering the cost of imported inputs and consumer goods. In 2014, about $17.4 billion worth of goods entered the U.S. duty-free under GSP. The GSP program is currently authorized through December of 2017. Next slide. So what kind of products are eligible under GSP? As you can see, a pretty broad variety, including those shown here. Congress has specifically excluded certain products from GSP, including most but not all textile and apparel articles. In a few minutes, we'll discuss what textile and apparel products are GSP eligible. There is a process through which interested parties, including beneficiary countries and businesses in beneficiary countries, can file petitions seeking to add products to GSP, which I'll describe in a little bit in my presentation. Of note, in June 2015, Congress removed certain luggage and travel articles from the list of products that were previously excluded from GSP eligibility. The products are not yet eligible for GSP, but the President now has the authority to add these products. We are currently reviewing several petitions requesting to add these products that were submitted as part of the 2015 annual GSP review. Next slide. So this pie chart helps to put the GSP in context. The U.S. tariff system encompasses 10,700 tariff lines. Of these, about 6,800, or 64%, those shaded in blue, pink, and green, are dutiable. That is, importers must pay a tariff. For Afghanistan, though, GSP eliminates tariffs on nearly 3/4 of these dutiable lines. The pink area represents the more than 1,400 products that are duty-free only for least developed countries that are beneficiaries of GSP. These products are eligible for duty-free treatment in Afghanistan. I also want to point out the purple area, which represents the portion of U.S. tariff lines that are zero duty on what we call a most favored nation basis, which means all countries with which the United States has normal trade relations. Some of Afghanistan's exports to the United States fall in this category, including pharmaceuticals, surgical and medical instruments, and certain hand-hooked carpets. That's worth noting because you may find that many of the products you may be interested in exporting have no duties in the first place. Next slide. Let's look specifically at Afghanistan, starting with the overall trade picture. So in 2014, the total U.S. imports from Afghanistan was 72 million. Excluding goods that were returned back to the United States, the U.S. imports from Afghanistan were valued at $11 million. GSP imports were about 210,000, or 2% of this. This is a significant increase from a few years ago, but one of the reasons why I'm speaking to you today is because we think GSP trade could be even higher, and the GSP provides an opportunity to diversify Afghanistan's exports beyond textiles and apparel. Afghanistan's utilization rate for GSP in 2014 was 24%, which is below average. What this means is that of all the GSP eligible products that came into the US from Afghanistan last year, only 24% received duty-free treatment under GSP. Now you might ask, what about the other 76%? Why didn't these GSP eligible products from Afghanistan receive duty-free treatment under GSP? And I'll discuss that in just a few slides. Next slide. So now let's look at more closely at Afghanistan's top exports under GSP. Afghanistan exported 10 types of products to the United States last year under GSP. What you see here are the top categories in which those products fell. The top GSP product for 2014 was sugar confections or sweetmeats with duties of 5.6%. The GS imports in this category was about $90,000. The next leading category is raisins, which with duties of 1.8 cents per kilogram. GS imports in this category were nearly $50,000 last year. The third category is imitation metal jewelry, with duties of 11%. GSP import to this product was almost $32,000. And the next two products were different types of jewelry with precious and semi-precious stones, which have duties ranging from 3.3 to 6.5%. GSP imports of these two products were just over 19,000. So let me make a few general additional observations on this export basket of GSP goods. First, the duties on these products are fairly high by US standards, going as high as 11%. The average US tariff rate for manufactured goods is usually in the range of 3 to 4%. Quite simply, the higher the duty on a product, the greater Afghanistan's advantage is under GSP. Next product, or next slide. Now let's examine how a product qualifies for duty-free treatment under GSP. There are several key considerations. First, it has to be a GSP-eligible product, and I'll show you in a moment how we determine that. Second, it must be the product or growth of a GSP beneficiary country, in this case, Afghanistan. Third, the local content must add up to 35% of the value of the product. That is, one can use imported inputs to manufacture a GSP product, but those inputs, unless substantially transformed, cannot constitute more than 65% of the product's total value. There's also a provision in GSP that allows certain associations of countries to be treated as one country for purposes of GSP related to the 35% local content rule. The South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, or SARC, is one such organization. So for example, products exported from Afghanistan under GSP can include inputs from other SARC countries to meet that 35% content requirement. Fourth, the product must be imported directly to the United States without entering the commerce of another country. Goods, of course, can transit through other countries, but they cannot enter those countries' commerce and then be re-exported to the US under GSP. Fifth, the US importer must claim the GSP exemption. It is not automatic. And you would really be surprised how many US importers do not claim the GSP benefit. And I'll return on this topic of unclaimed benefits in just a bit. And finally, some people think there is some type of special GSP certification or documentation that must accompany the shipment, and that is not true. However, GSP exporters should keep accurate production and accounting records because the US Customs does check from time to time to make sure that the imports entering under GSP are in fact the product of that country and meet the value added requirement. So exporters should be able to provide this information if importers request it. Next slide. Okay, so how do you determine whether your product is eligible under GSP? The easiest way to do it is to go directly to the first website shown here, which I'll demonstrate in just a moment. If you already know the tariff number of the product, or if you just want to browse GSP products, then instead you can go to the second website below, which contains the list of GSP eligible products grouped by tariff schedule chapter. These lists are a good place to go if you want to see all the different types of a certain product. All right, so next slide. So let me go to the first website, which is here, which does not require any knowledge of the U.S. tariff system. In the dialog box on the first page, you can type in a brief 1 or 2 word description of the specific product that you're looking for. So let's try a product that we know Afghanistan is exporting to the United States. Let's put in raisins. Next slide. So that will take you to this page here, which often shows a range of products fitting that description. So you need to find one that most clearly matches what you have in mind. In this case, you would find several tariff lines with different descriptions. Let's choose the one that pertains to raisins made from dried seedless grapes, which is the tariff number is 0806-2010. Next slide. So if you click on that, you're going to get to this page, which shows you the details about the tariff treatment of this product. Check first to see if there is a duty for the product. This will appear next to the heading that says MFN tax rate. If the rate is 0, that means the product is duty-free for everyone. If there is anything else, that means the product is dutiable. For this particular product, the duty is 1.8 cents per kilogram. And then if there is a duty, you want to scroll down to the heading that reads GSP and see if the product is marked for GSP eligibility, which for Afghanistan will be indicated in either an A or an A+ at the right-hand column. A+ means that the item is GSP eligible for LDCs only. If you see an A*, that means that the item is eligible for all GSP countries except those shown in the countries excluded box down below, and which usually means that a country is excluded from GSP eligibility for that product for reasons of competitiveness. In the case of Afghanistan, there are no products in which it's excluded. In this case that we see here, you can see that this product, raisins, is listed as A+, which means it's GSP eligible for only LDC beneficiaries, including Afghanistan. Next slide. Finally, I would like to note that on this page, you can, near the top, there are some links to very useful trade data. You can see, for example, which countries have exported this product to the United States and how much, if any, has entered under the GSP program or other U.S. trade programs. So let's examine imports by source, by country source. Next slide. So this is what it looks like. You would see the list of trade data. In this case, the data shows that in 2014, Afghanistan was one of the top 10 leading sources of U.S. imports for raisins. You would also see that imports of this product from Afghanistan were up 88% in 2014, while overall U.S. imports of this product were only up 57%. Next slide. All right, so now that you've identified products that you can export to the U.S. duty-free under GSP, how can you make the most of the GSP tariff advantage? Here are 4 ways to do this. The most important thing that you can do is to use GSP as a marketing tool. GSP gives products from beneficiary countries anywhere from 1 to 14% cost advantage over competing products from non-GSP countries. Next, you must make sure that your U.S. buyers are aware of this advantage, which of course makes your product cheaper for them, and that they claim duty-free treatment when the product enters the United States. You would be surprised how many importers pay duties when they don't have to. That is unfortunate for both them and for you if you're a GSP exporter. They paid a duty that they did not need to, and you missed out on an opportunity to have sold them even more of your product. Next slide. So this slide shows some of the product sectors in which GSP-eligible imports from Afghanistan are not fully being claimed. In some cases, there may be a good reason why the GSP duty exemption is not being claimed. For example, in the case of some manufactured products, especially if the product, it is possible that the product may not meet GSP value added rules of origin, but in many cases, it's simply because the importers are not claiming the duty exemption. Afghan exporters may also want to examine whether there are GSP-eligible products that Afghanistan is exporting to other markets, but not the United States. I have found sometimes exporters get a little complacent. They have strong traditional markets for their products. Maybe it's the EU, maybe it's neighboring countries, and they have not explored whether or not there might be a market for these products in the United States. Next slide. A fourth way of increasing GSP exports is to consider producing and exporting products that have a special advantage under GSP, especially some of those higher tariff products like jewelry. This slide, for example, shows some potential GSP exports from Afghanistan in the home decor and handcrafts area, an area in which Afghanistan may have a comparative advantage over many of the other producers. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, most but not all textile and apparel articles are excluded from GSP. Knowing that this is an important sector for Afghanistan, I wanted to spend a few minutes noting some of the textile and apparel products that are GSP eligible. Silk fabrics and apparel, the duties for these products can run as high as 14%. And in years past, there have been imports of some GSP silk products like shawls and dresses from Afghanistan. Hand-loomed cotton fabrics, the duties are in the range of 3%. Gloves and mittens have duties up to 5.5%. National flags, these are flags from any country, not just Afghan flags. Afghanistan exported $10,000 of this product last year, but did not claim GSP. Duties are 7% for this product. Hand-loomed and hand-hooked carpets. Again, there have been past imports of carpets from Afghanistan, and these, like the other products that have been exported in prior years, could be a source for future exports to the United States. Next slide. I'm often asked how an exporter in a country like Afghanistan can identify and develop relationships with potential U.S. buyers. That is not the main topic of this presentation, but let me provide a few suggestions with apologies to those in the room that have greater experience in this topic. The first thing to say is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to this question. It really depends on the size of your business, the sector that you're in, your past experiences exporting, and your familiarity with the U.S. market. But the very first question new to export businesses must ask themselves before they begin to explore opportunities in the American market is, are you ready to export? Are you ready to establish a sustainable relationship with buyers based on a clear perception of your strengths and weaknesses, including finances and equipment? Next, you need to do a little research to understand the dynamics of the U.S. market in your product sector. Chances are that market demands the players, the packaging, and perhaps the standards might be somewhat different from the other markets that you've looked into. Don't assume that the U.S. market is all big retailers like Walmart. There are thousands of niche and specialty markets in the U.S., and many GSP products are sold to buyers in these specialized markets. The internet is a great way to develop some basic information, but you should also check with local resources, including the U.S. Embassy commercial section. Next, you need to determine what kind of U.S. partner relationship is most appropriate for you, whether it be an agent, a distributor, a partner, or a joint venture. For most small businesses, an agent or a distributor is most common. If you don't know the difference, talk to some of your colleagues. Believe it or not, your best sources of information may be sitting beside you right now. Many Afghan businesses have experience selling to the U.S. market, and you should tap that experience and use your existing network. Finally, a few words on trade shows. There are associations in practically every product area, from jewelry, food products, cut flowers, home decor, etc. And many of these associations hold annual or semi-annual trade shows in different locations in the U.S. This is perhaps the best place to find out more about the market of these products, as well as to connect with potential buyers. For example, the annual Fancy Food Show in New York is a great place to exhibit prepared food products. There are also shows for cut flowers, apparels, gifts, and cosmetics, many other products. Next slide. So, finally, I want to touch on the process through which interested parties can petition to add products to the GSP list. As I noted at the beginning, GSP covers a wide range of products, again, almost 5,000 different products. But the list is not closed. Every year, as part of the annual GSP review, we consider petitions to add products. Any interested party, including foreign governments and businesses, can petition the U.S. government to add products to the GSP product list. We can only consider products that are not excluded from GSP by law. For example, we are not able to accept petitions to add certain textile and apparel products, but most other products can be considered. We are currently reviewing petitions right now that were submitted as part of the 2015-2016 GSP annual review, and results of this review will be announced in June 2016. The next annual review will begin in July 2016 and will be announced in the U.S. Federal Register, which is our government gazette. If you're interested in submitting a petition for that 2016-2017 GSP annual review, you should check the USTR website or the Federal Register in July to learn more. So guidance on how to submit a petition and what information is required can be found in the GSP guidebook, which can be found on the next slide. I'll have a link for it. And it details out the steps and requirements that you need to meet. Please also note that we are not able to add products for one country only. We either add a product for all GSP beneficiaries or for LDCs only. If a product is eligible right now for LDCs only, a business can or a company can petition to add it to the A listing, which means it'd be eligible for all GSP beneficiaries. Next slide. So these are some extra links and information that you can find more information about the GSP program. Next slide. With links to CBP that works with us for refunds of duties. Next one. And the U.S. tariff schedule if you're looking up additional products. Next slide. So that concludes my presentation, but before I end, let me say once more that I think there are significant untapped opportunities in the United States for Afghan exports, and that the GSP program can help Afghan businesses to make the most of these opportunities and to diversify Afghanistan's exports to the United States. As Jeff said, I'm staying for the 101, but if you have any questions right now, I'm happy to take them at this time.
Is this on? There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you, Aimee. So I have a few questions that I think will help clarify things for the crowd too. So I remember this earlier today, Administrator Natsios talked about the comparison of Afghanistan's situation with South Korea and where it was in the 50s. South Korea took tremendous advantage of the GSP program. In their GSP program, they focused on automobile parts and components, plastics, toys, and so forth, but they migrated quickly up as the skill level of those manufactured products got better and better, and eventually graduated from GSP program eligibility. And that was one of my questions. The country should have it up until they reach a per capita, is it a per capita income based?
Yes, it's a per capita income base that the World Bank sets.
So Afghanistan, based on where your per capita income now, is going to have GSP eligibility, I would guess, for at least a decade, based on where you are and how far you have to go to get off of that cap. So that's number one. Number two is the price advantage that she talked about for your products based on where your export quality goods are. You have to understand that even though your quality might not be U.S. big market quality, the price advantage to the importer and to the agent and distributor he might believe, or she might believe, I would rather get that better price with a little less quality and take a whole bunch more product than pay more to get the higher quality. So it might be raisins, but it could be a manufactured good like a rug, or it could be rubber products, or whatever that product is. This program gives you a huge price advantage in the marketing of your products to the United States. So am I right on that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Next is the transitional. A lot of them are exporting products to second countries where they get blended into the manufacture of other products. So the product that they export, say to Kazakhstan, would not be GSP eligible in that case, or would it be GSP eligible?
Well, Kazakhstan is a GSP beneficiary, so again, with the content rule, it depends on what the value of your export to Kazakhstan, but potentially that would still be a GSP eligible product under Kazakhstan's
so regional
export.
trade for them is a huge deal, and so you don't have to think of your products only in terms of getting to the United States. think about getting that product to a second country in Pakistan, India, any of the stands, they can include it, and you still get the duty and the pricing advantage out of that in most cases.
Well, it has to be, the final
content.
exporter has to be a GSP beneficiary country. So if your relationship is with India, which is a GSP user, and they are eligible for that final product, however it's finished, then that product would be GSP eligible for India, but it's the same. The savings, the cost advantage is the same for you and both for India.
Okay. I think this is my last question. The 10 products that you listed from Afghanistan, or the top 10 products from Afghanistan on the GSP list, those numbers are incredibly small. I mean, I'm really shocked that that's all. Those numbers should be in the millions for Afghanistan if you were taking full advantage of this preferential program. So that's money in your pockets for products and exports that you're not taking advantage of, that you could be making money on, the duty piece of it and the product piece and the sale piece of it too. So try to look broader at the list that Aimee has described today. Look at that product list in detail, the GSP product list, and see if there's products on there that you can manufacture or you can acquire from manufacturer from Afghanistan, and think about how you can build trade relationships with suppliers like she described, the trade shows, the agents and the distributors. AACC can help you to connect to agents and distributors. We can post lists of distributors and agents in different product segments on our website so you can have access to that and talk to them yourselves. The AmCham can help you with this as well, and the other associations in Kabul will now, because of the WTO accession and the GSP program implementation, this is all going to become part of the language of trade for Afghanistan now as part of the new global economy. So we're very appreciative to Aimee that she came today. She volunteered to come and talk to you, and we want her to get a chance to meet you at the tables too. So sign up on the sheets if you haven't already done so. Can I hear a round of applause for Aimee for coming today?
Thank you.